Welcome to The Five, where we share 5 interesting things in Black culture and history in every episode. Are you wasting your life away waiting for a Black James Bond? We have the stories of 5 spies for you to quench your thirst of Black espionage while you wait. But first, subscribe to our channel and click the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. A spy in the Confederate White House. Mary Elizabeth Bowser, also known by the name Richmonia Richard, was a freed slave who was able to go up north to receive an education before the Civil War, courtesy of Elizabeth Van View, a renowned abolitionist who freed several families of slaves after her father passed away. She was even sent overseas to Liberia for missionary work in 1855. A couple years after her return, the Civil War erupted. Mary first started out by volunteering at a warehouse that held Union prisoners. But she was bringing much more than food and clothes. She was delivering hidden messages and plans for escape. Soon after, Mary was fully integrated into Van Loo's network of spies working for the Union. After working for the Confederate President Jefferson Davis as a cook, she was employed as a full-time servant in the Confederate White House, becoming Van Loo's most valuable spy. Mary passed on plans of documents straight from the Confederate White House to the Union. Mary later became an educator of freed slaves and traveled the country, sharing her adventures as a spy. The Double Agent. Born in 1748, James Armistead Lafayette served the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War under Marquis de Lafayette. James was an enslaved man owned by William Armistead of Virginia and received permission to join the army under Lafayette. He posed as a runaway slave and joined the camp of the British General Benedict Arnold. Armistead Lafayette then became a double agent against the British, pretending to be a spy for the British and gaining Arnold's confidence. He fed the British false information and sent accurate and detailed information to the Americans. Armistead Lafayette moved between British camps and delivered written reports on their plans to other American spies. His reports were instrumental in helping the revolutionaries beat the British during the Battle of Yorktown. Even after his return to the United States, Armistead Lafayette technically was still the property of William Armistead. With the support of his owner and Revolutionary War hero Marquis de Lafayette, he had to petition the House of Delegates to gain his freedom. On January 9, 1786, Armistead Lafayette was granted his freedom and added the last name Lafayette in honor of Marquis de Lafayette. He lived out the rest of his life as a wealthy farmer. The tireless conductor. You might know her as the mother of the Underground Railroad, but have you realized that Harriet Tubman was a spy for the abolitionist movement? Born Arminita Minty Ross circa 1822, Harriet Tubman came into this world as a slave. She endured a difficult and brutal childhood, suffering from several head injuries that left her suffering from epilepsy. Around 1844, she married a free black man by the name of John Tubman, and changed her name to Harriet Tubman shortly after. On September 17, 1849, Harriet made her first escape from slavery along with her brothers. But soon after, her brothers chose to return and brought her back with them. But Harriet made another escape soon. This time, she was alone. After she was safely in the North and amongst abolitionists, Harriet began her lifelong work to free other slaves through the Underground Railroad. She put her freedom at risk by returning to Maryland to guide other slaves to the North. She was often disguised as a slave and passed instructions on escape routes. One of her last daring missions was to rescue her own aging father and mother. Although he was freed after turning around 55, her father was harboring a group of 8 escaped slaves and was at risk of arrest himself. Harriet guided them out to St. Catharines, Ontario. When the Civil War broke out in 1861, she saw a Union victory as an integral part of the abolitionist movement. Harriet became the first woman to lead an armed assault during the Civil War in 1863 as she guided the Cabaret River Raid. Union troops set fire to plantations and rescued more than 750 slaves. Before the attack, Harriet had conducted several spy missions into the area to identify Army supply areas and report on weaknesses in the Confederate troop deployment. The Singing Spy. Josephine Baker was born into show business on June 3, 1906 in St. Louis, Missouri. Her mother was a performer and would bring Josephine on stage at an early age. When the lights turned out, Josephine lived in a very poor neighborhood and had to start working at the age of 8. At the age of 15, she was recruited for the St. Louis Chorus Vaudeville show. She was 19 when she headed to Paris to pursue a career abroad as both a dancer and a singer. In France, she was able to catch her first big break. When France declared war on Germany in 1939 for the invasion of Poland, Baker was recruited by the French military intelligence as an honorable correspondent. Since she performed at embassies and special gatherings of ministers, she was the perfect spy to eavesdrop on conversations and pass along crucial information. As an entertainer, Josephine freely moved around Europe, writing notes about harbors, German troop concentrations, and airfields in invisible ink on her sheet music. She also hid notes in her clothing and avoided being searched due to her celebrity. After the war ended, Josephine received many awards and accolades from France. The man, the legend, the myth. The Civil War spy John Scobell has been written about extensively, but did he actually exist? John Scobell was recruited to become an agent for the Union Army during the Civil War in the fall of 1861. As a former slave in Mississippi, Scobell was well educated and was able to play different roles under several identities in various missions. He worked with white agents, often posing as their servants while in the South. Scobell is credited with providing valuable intelligence on Confederate order of battles, status of supplies, and troop morale. There are some who have argued that the story of John Scobell is fictional since historians have not been able to discover much about his life. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one.